Good day, everyone. We are 5 days away from landing in Jacksonville for the first exciting race of 2021, the first elite race in a year. So we got a bunch of stuff coming this week. That's why you're getting something today on a freaking Sunday. If it's not Sunday when you're watching this, ignore what I just said. I had a great call with Killian. We talked specifically about if he's currently on the pro team. He's not. We talked about him being at the Capitol during all the craziness that happened and the inauguration right after that. All that's going to be in the podcast, but today we're going to bring you just some of it, which is a lot of the pro team stuff, and I want to bring it to you. Let's not dilly-dally. Away we go.
That's my biggest issue is, getting into the pro team and, what is our intent? What is our purpose? How are we building a partnership with Spartan? Ever since there's been some, Joe DI left, it's been a downhill slope in my opinion. That's just my honest opinion. I've been on the team longer than anyone that's currently on the team. Of course, Bracken, was on it for a while, but then he got pushed out. Myself and Kent, I think, are the two that have been on continuously. And just that's been one of the things that I've struggled with is try to bridging that gap between communication and actually listening to us about, hey, you're breaking our bodies down in some instance for having such a long season, or, hey, why don't you sit down with us once a month or so, or even a quarter, and just get some feedback from us. I've done 105 Spartan races, and in most cases, the people who are making the decisions haven't done a single Spartan race. You know what I mean? And how are you going to manage, a product or manage pro teams without that experience, or at least hearing out those who have that experience? And I think that's what, kind of sparked that protest at the beginning of last year. And of course, COVID happened, but we're still kind of at that same, I saw, I think it was yesterday, all the pro team announcements from Europe. And, of course, I watched your interview with Watson talking about the new, Spartan Cross and how that's going to determine the pro team. But I'm like, well, how are those guys already announcing their pro team, but we haven't announced it in the US if that's how the new determination is going to be made. So there's a lot of confusion, in my opinion. Just not a lot of talk with us. I don't know if there's an interest to even entertain a pro team based off of, literally, you guys think that we get all this information. I have no idea about Spartan Cross till I heard it on your podcast. I had no idea about a pro team still. We get an email from Nathan maybe about 4 weeks ago that's like, hey, we'll send you you get your season pass. You get your, can you please use your headband and your jersey from last year if you go to Jacksonville? We're not going to support you to go, none of that. But, hey, sometime in the summer or, May, we're going to have this selection process. So I guess that's where we're at. I literally, you probably have more information than I do at this point.
Well, and that's because I ask a lot. And I do until I get.
Well. Trust me, I just get ghosted. You should see the emails. And when I don't, or I don't get answered, I have an issue, I can reach out to Joe. But, he's a busy guy and I don't like to bother him. There's people he pays to do certain things, but when they don't do that, I have to get answers, and he usually takes care of that for me.
Well, it's interesting, though, with Joe, and I don't mind saying this publicly because I'm obviously pretty close with Joe, too. But because Joe's so busy, what happens is you email him, he immediately forwards it to 5 people and thinks he's helping, and it actually makes it worse. So
right.
He's I save the Joe favors for when I really, really need something. And I have here's what typically happens, just so you know, it's not just you, right? Or athletes. I get told something, then I get pushed back, then I go back to someone else and well, let me fix it. They don't. And I've been working with these people just as long as you have, if not longer. It's 8 years of the same arguments. And it's silly. It's like I am trying to help grow the sport. I'm trying to help you. I could be, you know what I mean? Obviously I'm not going to be your marketing and PR team, but I'm doing news and information about this sport and they can't get out of their own way. So what you're saying is there really is no pro team yet. They're not flying you. They're not paying you. They're just wear last year's gear and we'll give you a free pass for the race.
Exactly. And that's my biggest thing. Like you're saying, I'm not so much looking out for myself. I want to see the people have the same opportunities that I had. When the pro team was actually something that you looked at as, hey, this is something I want to achieve. I want to obtain. I want to be a part of. It's lucrative. I can actually do this professionally. So some of the younger kids in the sport who've gotten, pushed out, like VJ, or even we saw Kempson, Woods, some of the top performers that were on the pro team not sign up last year because there is a clear issue and it's just not being resolved. And if you speak up, you get pushed out. And now that I'm in the military, and it's sad to say this, but if you do speak out, there's a threat that you're going to get cut from the pro team. They're not going to have a conversation with you. They're just going to throw you to the side. They're not going to publicize anything you say. They're not going to talk to you even. And I think that's not a good way to do business, to, like what you're saying, progress the sports. There's a lot of people that are inspired by those athletes and follow them. And I think, it's a diligent justice to be able to give them the same opportunities that other pro team members had in the past, because they're out there working just as hard. And
and here's what I'm hearing, and this is me getting like, this is just to remind folks, it's been a long time. Robert's the current world champion, and the only guy to make the podium at Tahoe like 4 or 5 years in a row. Like, so if Killian is getting this, then imagine what it's like for the little guy. And trust me, there's plenty of them that are just like, honored and humbled to be named. Like, there's plenty of those people. Good for you. It's, you know what I mean? But for the top guys, top 3, top 5 consistently, yeah, it's we've watched it happen year in, year out. Don't worry, it's going to be better next year. Please sacrifice with us today so we can take care of you next year. Right?
That's literally what. So whenever they brought Atkins on and they were supposed to bring Albin on and Hunter, like David Watson literally told me, he's like, hey, we're cutting your contract in a third so we can give that money to those guys. And I was like, wait a second. So the same guys that you change the t-shirt rule for because they're wearing Tough Mudder t-shirts on the podium or Battle Frog or whatever it is, and the guys who'd been trash talking you on social media for like a year, you're going to give them my money? And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be a team player. And that's pretty much how it went down. It was like, hey, I didn't really have a choice in the matter, but that's where, I'm blessed to have sponsors. And I think that's the difference between being a professional and being on the pro team. Is being a professional is you're getting your entire salary paid and you can make a living for an entire year to support your family. Not necessarily winning every single race or crushing it, but that's another form of being a professional. But if you can't at the end of the day say that, hey, this is my primary source of income, this is what feeds my family, then you're not truly a professional. If that's, like everything you do is for that one kind of goal. And that's a dicey, I did it for 5 years. It's when COVID hit, we don't get, any kind of compensation for unemployment benefits. We're contractors. And we don't get, any of those, same benefits that Spartan employees do. Not that they have a lot of employees. Most of them are contractors. So I think they kind of felt that same pain that I did. But I just don't know what we're going to do moving forward. I know it's a pandemic, and I know they're hurting for funding right now because of that. But it's I don't know. It's got to come to a fruition at some point. We got to come, figure out a solution, and it has to be a partnership. It can't just be one-sided, kind of like you're saying all the time, like, hey, it's going to get better. They keep telling us stuff. We need action. You see the Nicole out there with the girls side putting together a female team. She's just like, screw it. If they don't want to put a legitimate pro team together and kind of advocate for females, I'm going to do it. So that's great initiative. And I think that's awesome that the girls side is taking on that front. I just don't know if there's anyone on the guys side. Of course, I'm in the military full time now as a result of the pandemic. Like, I can't support my family off of a few $1,000s because there aren't any races. I can't earn an income by winning the Spartan race world champs and getting, a $20,000 paycheck, even with 31% taxes. But so I had to go back in the military full time. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, having to do this part time and as able, I guess. I'm not really focused on it 100% like I was when I was living in Colorado.
Well, you have had a super unique pandemic. You were a part of the inauguration, correct?
Yes. Well, I was actually on the ground the day, January 6th, whenever everything happened at the Capitol building. I was at the DC Armory. I actually went for a jog with David Magida because there was this long it was just, he was just giving a speech. Everything was chill. We were kind of on standby. And then literally in the middle of the run, my phone starts blowing up. I see all these like trucks going by and I'm like, what is going on? Everything was chill. And that's, the hour that everybody kind of went from peaceful to violent. And we watched on the news, and then, before you knew it, they were doing riot training, like on the drill floor. We were getting the communications assets in place so they can, talk to us on the ground. That's what I'm mainly a facilitator of operations while I'm there. I'm not out there, like putting on a shield and a baton and like on the front lines. So it was, a very unique experience. And I worked that, and I'm still working that pretty regularly as a liaison officer for the National Guard Bureau until the 14th or so of March. So it's been a very long, like you said, very unique. I haven't had as much time to train, but it's a lot of early mornings and late evenings. If you've been following me, like I've been running at dark, running like super early in the morning just to try to get a workout in. But I'm feeling that balance now that, I think most people feel with holding a full-time job and trying to still work out and do Spartan race at the same time.
Well, if I can ask you, I'm not sure how much you can answer, how much you know, how much you can say, but in the movies, there's always these jurisdiction issues, right? Like, we'll take over from here. So shit goes down to the Capitol, right? You've got local PD, you've got
the Capitol Police. So there's an actual Capitol Police that's assigned just for the Capitol. That's all they do.
So they're not DC. They're not.
I mean, they're
just the Capitol.
Yeah, Capitol Police, and then you got Metro Police. You got like regular Park Police. Then you have DC Police.
Right, but you do have. Someone can say, "Well, let's get the military involved, or let's get the National Guard involved," right?
What's unique about that in the District of Columbia? It's not a state, so usually that would rely on the governor. Has control of the state's National Guard, but in that instance, it's a higher authority, pretty much directly for the president. So that support has to come from an agency, either the Secret Service, the FBI, or something like that. It has to have a credible threat before they'll allow the funding for Title 32 or Title 30 or Title 10 authorities to be able to operate. And it's usually Title 32. So once they put us on that status, we can't just show up like in an hour or two notice. It has to come, I guess, from the proper authorities. And we weren't requested until they saw that the Capitol Police weren't manned with enough, support to be able to push back the mob. So that's when they alerted us, and we were there within about 3 hours. I mean, it wasn't like a lot of time, but we just weren't on standby beforehand with a large enough force. But you saw how fast it escalated after that. I mean, we had
that's what I wanted to ask you was you're trained, you're experienced, you can go in that work mode. I have to ask though, as a human being, as just a dude, as a father, like, did your brain go like, holy fuck, like this could be it? Like we could have some shit go down in our own country?
No, absolutely. It was like, I had never imagined, and I put a post, I think, up, like I'd be doing this type of mission, inside the United States. And when I came here, that was not something that I was already planning on working the inauguration. But I mean, that's in a security aspect, as we normally have between 800,000 and 1 million live spectators. So that's more for just crowd management. If we need to, get people to facilitate leaving or flowing, or if, heaven forbid there's a terrorist attack in that amount of people, we are always having a National Guard presence before that happens. So they had already planned on having, between 4,500 and 5,000 National Guard soldiers. And then that got escalated pretty heavily after the Capitol was overrun. And I think that's kind of how we went from there. But I definitely had that thought of, like this is historic. It's never happened before. And it's not something that you, again, have to question, though. It's your duty. It's what you signed up to do, to defend the Constitution and to take, your orders from higher. And that's what I entrust, that they're making the right decisions. They have the right people up there giving them the advice that they need. And that's just part of being a soldier. I'm just grateful, for the opportunity in some aspects, because, the military for me has been important. I grew up in Hampton, South Carolina, it's a majority Black high school, and I didn't have a lot of the same opportunities. I grew up in a trailer, and one for the military, I got a scholarship to go to college. And then outside of college, after that scholarship, I had a commitment to serve on active duty. I got a deployment in to Iraq, and then I transitioned into the National Guard to kind of balance that, having to want a personal life and still be a part of the military. So, for me personally, you've seen it. I salute the flag at every Spartan, starting line, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. So.
How many siblings do you have?
I have a half sister. So she still lives in it's Gallivan's Ferry, just kind of west of Ainer, South Carolina, by Myrtle Beach, and that's all I have. So one sister.
Well, I was asking about the trailer park thing because my eldest sister, lived in one with her son, and I used to babysit her son in the good old trailer park. And I don't think a lot of people know that about you.
I don't think so either. Like it's it's kind of, I don't know. It's a single wide too. And then when I was with my dad, he used to be a professional boxer. He left the scene when I was about 5. He got into drugs. So he's I guess, if you're have a little bit of money in the 80s, and cocaine was a thing. So he got busted for that. And my mom spent a lot of our savings getting him out of jail. And then they separated. I went to live in Ainer with my mom. In the country, and then she couldn't take care of both of my sister and I, so then I went and lived with my uncle, and he's the one who was in the military, went to the Citadel. He was a teacher down in Barnville, South Carolina, which is where Wade Hampton High School is, and that's where I got my kind of a mentorship. And he kind of molded me to be, pursue the military, to do athletics. He ran cross country, so we'd go on runs as much as it would I get these side stitches, and I hated it. He just, kept me persistent and kept me going. And yeah, I just, I pretty much just kept being on my own and just doing, trying to do the right thing, going through college. And I think, the values that I learned in the military are what I kind of hold most dear to my heart right now. And that's one of the things I struggled with Spartan, is just trying to get those same values. And a lot of times I get beat up for, things like this, just speaking out about the pro team and just being honest. But it takes a little bit of integrity to just to let people know how it is, I guess, and to not really, just to be candid. I'm not trying to hide anything, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm absolutely grateful for the opportunities that Spartans presented. But I think, there is some value into having a partnership instead of just, shoving mandates down our throats about what we have to wear. And look at VJ. He got stripped of his prize money because he put some logos on his podium shirt. Our sponsors are who represent us. They're the ones who help us get to these races. And there used to be a time where you could even finish in the top 50. I think they narrowed it down to 30 at the Elite Point Series, and you would earn a free season pass for the next year. And then they got this great idea, is we can hold this as leverage over people to get them on the pro team. So they took that away. And now it's the Elite Point Series. I remember that was my first interaction with David Watson. He was like, hey, you guys, we're not going to give you this prize money for the Elite Point Series because it's not competitive enough. I'm like, yeah, but you already published it. And it's me, I think Kempson and Husick were one of the top, 4 or 5. And it wasn't but Hunter used to bide for that world, point series thing. That used to be a really big thing back in the day. And regardless of how, his opinions on it, we had to fight him. He actually drafted up a letter and was like, we're not going to pay you. And we're like, this is ludicrous, it's just a few $1,000. But finally we got them to, kind of acknowledge that, hey, if you say you're going to do something, you should probably do it.
There you go. There you have it. As I said, we've got a much longer chat with him. That's really great. It'll be on the podcast this week, most likely. So be sure to go over to your favorite podcast player. We also loaded up Ida today. You saw her video the other day. Full video of Ida, full podcast of Ida is now up online. While I'm speaking, let's go ahead and thank all the patrons. I'm going to scroll every single gosh darn one of them right now.
We are vastly approaching 200, which is super exciting. And I want to give all of them some love right now.
Alrighty. Also talked to Hunter today. Let's give you just a little taste of Hunter.
Oops. I don't. How about that? You've.
Huh? How about that? All right. Stay tuned. So much more stuff to come. Love you. Miss you. Mean it. I've got to run.